Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer, and I am Skeindeer Knits as a designer on Ravelry. And I also have a group on Ravelry called Skeindeer Knits, which is a great place to take part in Knit Along and just get in touch. So yeah, hi. To your new viewers, this is my kind of knitting talk show where I sit and talk about knitting for about an hour, and it used to be weekly back in the day, and I'm kind of trying to get back into the weekly thing again. So to returning viewers, hi and welcome. I'm actually back. It's been a week as of the time of recording. I'm not sure how long it will take me to get it out there because there's a few shenanigans to deal with, but that's neither here nor there. Hi and welcome back. I have a couple of things to go through today. A little bit about Knit Along, a new pattern. Got some finished objects, I know, and I actually have a returning work in progress from my pile of whips. So hopefully it's not going to be a very long episode because the sun is setting right over there. So anyway, let's just get straight into it. I'm running a Knit Along now. Well, I am running the festive yoke cal that I started in December. Which is a very short time frame to make a festive yoke, so that's why it's a year-long Knit Along. It will probably be just over a year. I imagine you're going to get the whole of the holidays next time it comes around. So that's that. We're going to do a proper release of the pattern in October, but it is available throughout as kind of like a work in progress, being the only difference is that I don't have photos of the finished item, though my test knitters do, and otherwise the pattern is the same. So that's one Knit Along. I did ask you guys in the last episode about current Knit Alongs. Now I haven't considered these suggestions for other types of Knit Alongs that I haven't done yet, but there were enough votes and wishes and questions about the year-long garment cal of my garment patterns that I think I'm just gonna have to do it again. So consider that cal to have started on the 1st of January, okay? So anything you cast on then just has to be finished in 2022. It has to be any of my garment patterns. That will be pullovers, cardigans, the one skirt pattern I have, children's garments and adult garments alike. Same rules as before. You can make as many garments as you like, and that's as many entries as you get. Simple as that, really. I encourage also double dipping into other Knit Alongs, meaning that if you do make the festive yoke, that is technically 2 entries if you start that this month or later. But yeah, a bit of an unplanned loophole right there. But I'll have a think about other Knit Alongs we could be doing during the year, given you guys gave me so many great ideas. I'm still receiving those ideas in the comments below or whatever. So thinking about that. And I'm sure you're wondering, well, what about the one you just wrapped up? And yeah, I am in the process of recording a video where I will be showing off all the finished items based on the photos that are submitted, and also kind of doing a price draw. It's just that I haven't really kind of got organized for that yet, because we're going to talk about getting organized at the end of the episode. I mean, not as an example, but just as a thing to talk about. So what is this thing you hear about a new pattern? Well, I did kind of hint to that in the last episode that I have 2 garments and a sock pattern ready, and one of the garment patterns is pretty much just good to go by the time of recording and will be out by the time this episode goes up. Now, I was hinting about there being a new pattern in the last episode, and that is true. I have a new garment pattern coming out, and I want to tell you a little bit about the idea behind the pattern, because it's probably one of the kind of more simple looking, unassuming garment designs that I have done. I mean, I do have a few stockinette patterns in my back catalogue, but this one is a cardigan, and it's one of those things I've just knitted because I wanted it in my wardrobe and I wanted it in that specific yarn and that sort of silhouette, and my idea sort of worked around that, and that's how I thought, well, how would I want to make it if I was going to do it in that yarn, and you know how I like to construct things. And so it's top down, it's a drop sleeve, it has a very deep v-neck and very sort of big sleeves, very big sleeves. I'm not gonna do the whole wearing knitwear on top of knitwear thing, so I'm just gonna hold it up in front of you because we're gonna get to what I'm wearing as well, don't worry about that. It's a very simple v-neck cardigan in stockinette. You can make the body straight if you want, like I did, or you could decrease to have like a waist shaping. So that kind of are your options. Both are written in the pattern. Here are the enormous sleeves, so let me just show you. These sleeves have absolutely no decreases, so it's very much kind of zooming along type knitting that you just do not have to think. Very good TV knitting, or what do we used to call it? Potato chippy? Yeah, so this is for those of you who just love just disappearing into endless stockinette, because I mean, as much as I love my like really like brain twisty kind of knits that I just like can immerse my entire brain into, I do love me a bit of mindless stockinette. So that's the sleeves. I mean, I have actually shown you this now that I think about it. I did show you this cardigan as a work in progress in November, was it? Was it October? It was quite warm. I was actually sat outside, so I think it's probably a while ago, but I haven't been recording as frequently. So I'm just having a hard time showing you this entire thing. But this is, it's, yeah, very, very simple shape. So as you can see, the buttons are quite a bit bigger than my usual patterns have, because I just wanted fewer buttons, and then I think they need to be bigger to kind of, you know, be a bit more statement. So they measure about 25 centimeters across. You can go up to 30 centimeters across. So construction, how is this made? I do love me a bit of a interesting construction. If I'm gonna make something that is a bit of a, yeah, a wardrobe staple that, you know, isn't necessarily going to look super unique. I mean, there's like a million cardigans in various shops out there that probably look like this. Very timeless, you know. I like to put it in something that, you know, makes it mine, and that is usually in the construction. So it is top down, and how you start it, and I actually I just checked my tech editing notes, and my tech editor was like, that is a really cool way of doing it, because then you don't have to do it the way that is normally done. I was like, oh, thank you. So you just start off knitting in the round. So you're casting on stitches for one shoulder, putting in a marker, casting on more stitches so you have the back of the neck, putting in another marker, casting on for the other shoulder, then you have the back, right? That's not very unusual for top-down drop sleeves. You just cast on stitches to the back, yes. Then you cast on for the steek, cast on for the front, cast on for another steek for the front, cast on for this front, and cast on for a steek and join the round. And then you can just work in the round without having to kind of fight with, you know, where you join in the shoulders and stuff, because you just knit straight until you feel like it, and then you can graft the shoulders. And so you have 3 steeks, which makes it so that you can just knit stockinette all the way around. I mean, I do tend to put purl stitches to mark the steek, so they are the only purl stitches in this, apart from the rib, obviously. And you just do that while you are increasing for the next, that you get that V shape that we have here. And as you get to the underarm, you just bind off these steeks, but you maintain the front steek all the way down, so that there isn't like the usual like 2 steek solutions that I have for round necks. You kind of have to do that because you need to cast on like the front, right? This doesn't have that. It's just the same V all the way down. Even though you're, you know, no longer increasing till here, you can still continue having the same steek all the way down. So that is very satisfying when you're cutting it open. Now I'm just holding up this cardigan like some kind of whatever, I don't know where you're getting from seeing this hanging here like that. So I'm going to show you some photos while I talk a little bit about the yarn. The yarn is Tinde by Hillesvåg. So that is part of my motivation for making this. This is a bit similar to when I did the Trolltind cardigan, which is holding Tinde double. Well, this is holding Tinde single, so it's a DK weight cardigan. Tinde is, I'm going to say, a DK yarn that is leaning on sport weight. So if you want to substitute weight, I would substitute with sport and not worsted. Just personal preference there. The gauge is 20 stitches, so that's like kind of a run-of-the-mill DK pattern, I would argue. But you could probably use worsted. It's made for DK, okay? Now, why am I just so enamored with this yarn? Well, pelt wool is just so warm. When I go around in London, it's been quite chilly lately, apart from today, weirdly. I'm not big, I just like don't want to faff around with a coat and everything. I just like throw on a cardigan. Pelt wool is my go-to because I am just never cold in pelt wool. Like, it can be windy, it doesn't matter. I'm not cold in pelt wool. I'm just not. It's magical yarn, and even this that is, you know, sort of reasonably loose. So I just wanted to have another pelt wool cardigan in my wardrobe, and this one's it. So there, that's the story. And now this one's available. I'll put the discount code below. The discount code is sort of my usual thank you to early bird customers, because I know that you could just buy it whenever you are deciding to cast on, and you know, that's later, but when everyone does it to begin with, like, that is kind of a great way for me to reach new knitters. And I know that you don't have to do that, so that is something I am always and forever really grateful for, and that's sort of that code is like, hey, thanks for that. And also why it's not going to be valid for forever. So yeah. Did I have anything else to say about this? Yeah, top down, everything's top down. So the body is worked top down, like I said. Optional waist shaping before you do the rib for the waist. It's obviously easy to adjust length for the body because it's just potentially straight. And the sleeves are picked up around. So you can pick it up before you cut the stick or after. I tend to write after, but I tend to do before because it's just a pain to do it before, but also I'm just like that, I guess, glutton for punishment. And then you just work that in the round all the way down. Now, I thought I was being smart and did a provisional cast on and knitted the sleeves without the cardigan and then grafted it on later. That was actually really smart. Just if you don't want to carry around a cardigan with you all the time. But I did end up putting off the grafting of the sleeves forever. So there's a reason why I said in the pattern to just pick up in the round the way, you know, all my test knitters did and the way it's intended and the way I do with all my other patterns are like this. So, but if I put that out there for those of you who like to just do things your own way, I will always support that. I think that's very exciting and creative and the whole point of knitting. So now that I have announced my first garment pattern of 2022, I think it's time to talk about finished objects of patterns that are not mine. And the first one, of course, is the Markley that I am wearing. I was talking about the Markley last week. I mean, I can't believe I can say last week or last episode interchangeably, but that's where we're at. And so here's Markley. This is a Elizabeth Dorothy pattern. Her patterns are fantastic. Her eye to detail, I keep saying it. And Lola Bean Yarn Co.'s yarn. This is her burgundy beam colorway. And it's just like that when I was on, you know, big old Stockinette Island on fairly small needles that drove this sweater home for me. Like that it doesn't hurt that the pattern is brilliant as well. So, you know, that's just two things that went very well together. I guess I didn't talk so much about the pattern last time. I was mostly gushing about the yarn because that was what kept me focused, and I could do that again, but let's just have a few words about this pattern. This is a top-down drop shoulder as well, actually, and it has you work the back, I think, back and forth. Oh my god, I don't actually remember because the construction here is just so unusual. I've never seen anything like it, and I actually don't remember because it's been 2 years. But it's got this really cool feature in the back, and that's sort of what you're working around. This lateral braid here. You can see that. And it runs all the way across the back, like that. And it down to the sleeves here on both sides. Like, how cool is that? So a lot of the short rows that you work are worked kind of around that to give this really nice shoulder drop that fits the sleeves and goes straight in. Well, yeah, go straight into the sleeves, where also there are short rows. So you kind of have like a half and half, kind of the satin sleeve shape, just down to here, just to give it a little bit of a, you know? And it means that the little extra stretch that the sweater does from up here to down here gets evened out by how it's just directly going down from under the arm. Am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. But it's just like a slight sort of fit adjustment there. And I'm just, I like it. It also has these slip stitches that run all along the arm. You can see that. I'm really not doing a good job of this. There we go. So that is incorporated into the decreases for the sleeves. Like a central double decrease, which you may be familiar with. And also it goes along the body and like a diagonal along the front. And like meets under the arm, like it's the same line through and through. This is what I'm talking about when I say eye to detail. This is not your regular stockinette, drop sleeve, you know, oversized jumper. There's just so much in this. I mean, I'm just showing the other side as well. It's the same. And just this, the feature. So, I'm out of words. So the split for the rib is actually kind of coming together in the front. It would have come together even more had I done the full length, but I'm a skirt wearer with pockets, so, you know, I wasn't going to do a full length. This is a good length for me. I can lift my arms and it's still, like, long enough. So, that's that. It's just, I feel so fancy in this, and I'm warm, and I feel like, you know when a knitter wears knitwear, that's when we are ourselves, truly. So, I'm just, and it just does this cute fit here, and just how it's like, it's just perfect. It also has some decreases just under here, so even though I'm getting this beautiful drop all the way, so it's almost like, you know, horizontal, which I think is so cute, it doesn't add too much ease for the body, because there are these decreases here. Which actually reminds me, in the cardigan that I just published, I did the opposite for opposite reasons. So in this pattern, this is a cool comparison I literally just realized. Elizabeth Dorothy has done so that this drop can be maximum without adding too much ease to the body, while still being positive ease, obviously. So you get that nice little line going across here. The design sort of fit that I was going for in my cardigan is one that drops just over here, kind of. Now, the bigger the size is, the more bust circumference you have, and then really the more the drop is. Except I have you increase along here, but only for incrementally bigger sizes. So the smaller sizes never have to do that, because they will already have that fit. But the bigger the sizes, the more you're sort of increasing here, rather than just having a much bigger drop and a different fit than the smaller set of sizes. So that's something I forgot to mention in that cardigan, that I sort of adjusted for the same amount of drop across sizes-ish. You obviously want to grade something, but that's that. Whereas this one has done the opposite. Like I said, it makes you decrease under here rather than increase up here, so that it doesn't get too boxy when it's going for the max drop. That was a lot of words just to say that, but that's the sort of knit nerdery we do on this podcast. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about this pattern other than it's brilliant. I'd recommend it. I wouldn't really want to change a thing, other than obviously length adjustments to suit your needs, because we're all different lengths, and that's sort of a simple thing that we can all accommodate for. And yeah, oh, it's so cute. Look at these little snip stitches. I did make the sleeves a tad bit longer because I just like doing this. The yarn, I keep forgetting what the base is called. I'm so sorry for that. I don't have my labels around anymore. But yeah, the colorway is Burgundy Beam. It's gorgeous. I could go on about it forever, but I do have another finished object that I just wrapped up right after this one. It's probably not very surprising which one it is. It's the Glenmore Mini by Isolde Teague. This one I made in Laxton's 4-ply held together with Laxton's DK to make Laxton's Aran that I used for my sister's version, but I didn't have any more left. So I managed to fake the yarn weight by using the other yarns by Laxton's I have. This is all their undyed BFL Matham blend, so it looks the same. It's got the same stitch definition. I think it's actually got slightly better stitch definition, because there are two versions of this children's pattern. There's the Aran version and the chunky version. I did the chunky for my sister, but I've done the Aran mini version for my nephew. And yeah, I only had the sleeves left last time, so there's really not a whole lot extra to say. I was going on about the amazing construction. It's a different drop sleeve construction on this one than this one, or the one I did. Actually, this is turning out to be a very cool collection of drop sleeve, drop shoulder, whatever you want to call them, in this podcast that I did not plan, but yeah. So this one has just totally just will blow your mind kind of unique construction, but it is the sort of take on the do the back, do short rows, do the front, do short rows kind of workshop down. Not well explained, but it's been a while since I did it. Whereas my cardigan has this method that I like to use, where you can just work in the round and deal with the shoulder grafting later so that it's comfortable to knit throughout. And this one uses the contiguous method to work the same sort of sleeve drop. And I do find that the contiguous method give a much sharper drop than the sort of more short row based methods that the Markley has. Meanwhile, for a change, I didn't use any short rows. Normally I do that all the time, but I did want it to have quite a sharp sort of shoulder straight out, because that will kind of lift up the sleeves a little bit and give it sort of a little bit of something. It still drops, so it's not a lot of something, but you know. It's never a rule that, you know, you need or don't need short rows for that. It's just depending on the fit you want. I find that if you don't put in short rows, you get a little bit more of an angle, and sometimes I want the angle, sometimes you don't. Like this one, it's just so cute. I haven't woven in the end, so don't come for me, okay? I have still not woven in the end of the first jumper that I ever made, so try make me. I'll do it one day. But yeah, sleeves are done. I actually did go with the recommended sleeve length in the pattern. I went with much longer sleeves in, or was it just that my row gauge was off? I think my row gauge was just off in the last ones. I think I went with a recommended sleeve length for both, actually. I'm just gonna hold it still so you can see it, because I really haven't done that yet, have I? So that's Glenmore by Isolde Teague for my nephew in a very big size. Now this garment is already meant to have a lot of positive ease, and making a size, was it like 3 to 4 years old, I think, with positive ease for a 1-year-old. A 1-year-old who is the size of a 3-year-old, mind you, but that's what's happening here. That's Glenmore. I'm just really pleased with it. I really like this pattern, would recommend. It's fun. I like it. I look at it and I think about how I was watching Death Becomes Her, the film. I do that a lot. I don't know if you guys do. Just look at my knitting projects, and especially when I work on it again, I get like flashbacks to whatever I was listening to or watching. And yeah, this one is Death Becomes Her with Meryl Streep, so that's kind of amusing. But anyway, I'm gonna get to weaving in the ends and send this off because I haven't told my sister she's getting this. Well, that my nephew's getting it, but I'm sure she's the one who's gonna be excited that she's now matching, you know, her kid. They have identical jumpers now. It's so cute. I am this just so ridiculous. Nephew anecdote today. I don't think I had shared this one last time. My sister told me. Okay, so this has been going on for a while where my nephew does this. He'll just do this. And you're like, what is the deal with the hand on the head? And I realized, and he's been doing this since he was like, since before he met me actually. Like when he was like 8 months maybe. I'm like, you're on the phone. And so the other day he was doing this and he said, Aye? Aye? And my sister's like, he wants to call Auntie Ellie. And it's adorable. But yeah, that's that. I'm sorry to every other viewer who are just not at all interested. I am gonna resume to knitting right now because I have, now that I've finished my 2 active whips that are non-designs, I want to return to another whip that is not a design, because I think when you work with knitting you can easily just lose the whole hobby side of it, and I think it's important not just to keep my hobby for the sake of my hobby, but it's also important to keep my hobby fun so that I also enjoy my work that includes my hobby. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. And I don't want to lose it. Knitting is so important to me. It gives me so much joy, and if it's only, you know, deadlines and I'm not keeping up with things and I'm letting my test knitters down, which I constantly worry about, then it's gonna lose its fun and charm very quickly, and I have a way too big stash for that to happen. So I try to make sure that I'm always working on something that has no pressure, that is just for fun. And so that sort of makes sure that all my designs that I'm working on are also fun, because it sort of leaks onto each other, so to speak. And that's the Marius. Do you remember this? Look at that. Oh my god, that looks so good on camera. Ho ho ho. I've been having this in my hands the whole time and just like not looked at it this way, and I'm just like, yeah. Oh yes. I am getting so nostalgic, and to every Norwegian who's watching, I am sorry. You must be so sick and tired of this. I'm gonna have to give a lot of context for people who haven't been along the ride of this podcast, because my whole knitting resurgence that happened in like 2012, after I lived in London for about half a year, happened because a friend of mine made herself a Marius jumper, and I was like, I didn't even know you could make jumpers. I want to make a jumper. I want to make that jumper. And there was a lot of like Marius knitting boom in Norway, which is this old kind of mid-century vintage sort of from the 1950s knitting boom in Norway. That was sort of a post World War II kind of finding our spirit, nationally sort of blah, and just it really was a huge hit back in the 50s. Also a source of a lot of drama that I think I'll talk about at some point, and it's just become this very nostalgic thing for people. Like, I took a bunch of photos with my nephew and my sister. My sister was wearing a Marius that our grandma made for our dad, so that's just really cute. So we have that. So it's sort of a thing you just, you know, especially if you have parents that grew up in the 50s, you're probably gonna have an old Marius laying around that your parents had, and you know. But yeah, it had a comeback in like 2012, 2013, and it was just everywhere. And you'd be so sick and tired of seeing it. I actually don't have the first book that came out. It's downstairs because I was going to make a Marius for my nephew, but he's already too big for it, so that's not happening. But I don't blame anyone for being tired of it. This is not just because of those books. Because there was another 2 books that came out. There's one that came out recently back here, but there's another one that came out shortly after the first one. And it's like, how many Marius knitting books do you need? Like full-on hardcover ones, full price. Like, it was on everything. I have a Marius spatula. I have Marius pot holders. I have a Marius thermos. I have a Marius notebook. I have a Marius deck of cards. I have Marius beach towels. I have a Marius onesie. They made Marius toilet paper. They made Marius on everything. I do not blame people for being sick and tired of it. However, I have not lived in Norway for over 10 years, so I haven't really had that experience of being sick and tired of it, though I did buy a lot of these products. I also have Marius mugs, by the way. I don't know where they are. They're here somewhere. And so I want a Marius still. I do have the Marius cushion in the background all the time, just to kind of, you know, I guess give some honor to how this podcast started, because I did start off running the Marius Knit-along. I don't know if you guys remember that. When have you on with that? That was fun. Because there are just so many Marius patterns now. It's not just that one original pullover modeled by Marius, who was this like Norwegian celebrity, actor, athlete, war hero kind of. He was just the hot stuff at the time. That's all I can tell you. And I have a number of Mariuses around. I have a fingering weight superwash merino, huge like oversized yoke that I really didn't know a lot about modification at the time. I mean, I have always known some because I always modified every garment since the beginning, but it has a very big neckline and I should have just ripped it out and done it again and decreased more. I actually did modify it and it's still huge, so that needs fixing. I have a yoke as well that's more fitted. That's great. And I have a cotton yoke, also quite fitted. This is probably too small for me right now. I made a grey one for my sister. That was also the yoke. I have made so many Marius jumpers that I have, and I give them to others. But I haven't really made myself one in both the original colors in like proper Norwegian wool. And so that's been on my mind for so long. So this is made in Ask by Hillesvåg. That is just so Norway core that I don't know anything else that could beat it, honestly. Hillesvåg Ask is just so lovely. Many of you may be more familiar with Finul because I do talk about that a lot on here, simply because for a while that was easier for me to get hold of in the UK. Ask can be hard to get even in my hometown in Norway, but it is fairly similar, though I would say probably sturdier and thicker. So while Finul is leading on fingering, I would say Ask is a pretty classic sport, perhaps leaning on the DK side, but not too much. Here's a bit of the yarn hanging out if you want to get a sense of that. I don't know if that's really telling you anything. So I am making a cardigan, but I am not following a pattern, which is a choice. It's a box, right? This is just a full-on square. So all I did was just find out the stitch count I needed to make for my bust circumference. That's just one number that I needed to know. And so I was just knitting that. And I cut out the neck hole later. I did actually put that on a old podcast video. Do not remember which one, so I couldn't really help you with that. And I showed like kind of how I marked with a thread to find like what sort of shape I wanted. And then I just cut out the hole. And so the neck wasn't attached up here like the shoulders are. I've seamed that later, so kind of following the same principle of the V-neck cardigan I've just published actually. So I was working in the round and then I seamed the shoulders, and then the back and the front were the same, but just not attached the way the shoulders are. And I just cut out this dip in the front and a slight dip in the back, because a little bit of a dip in the back here is good. So you can see how it sort of drops there. And I don't remember if I secured it. I probably did because I'm a bit nervous about this stuff. I've now just covered all that up with a double folded rib for the neckline, so you can't see it. Oh, do you want to see the floats? This is the floats. I've got the floats on the inside here. I'm just really just improvising this. It's what they call the squirrel method on the Norwegian Marte audio podcast about knitting, and I'm trying the squirrel method. And I found that I want to knit the armhole down to here because if I just put together the length here, with the length of the back, that will be my arm circumference, and I would just know that the arms are gonna be as roomy as I want them. And I want them quite roomy. So I've been just knitting straight right up until about here, when I was like, okay, it's time to decrease. And I don't remember how I arrived at the rate, but I kind of just winged it because I was like, I want it to be loose all the way down. So the chances are it's going to be 2 minute stitches by the time I'm at the cuff. But that just means I can just decrease till I have the cuff stitch count that I wanted, which is why it's looking a little bit kind of rounded, which is very sort of classic Norwegian ski jumper fit, right? Also made the rib for the sleeve quite short. Honestly, sometimes I just don't get why I have to make the rib for the sleeve so long, because that's no fun to make, and also I quite like the fit when they're shorter. I kind of don't like how the stockinette here just got a little bit looser than the color work, clearly, even though I do go up a needle size for the color work. Hopefully that'll just block out and I'll just stretch this part a bit. That I just picked up for the other sleeve today, and I'm already zooming by. I got this much done and I didn't even like think about it. It was just boom, there we go. But that's that. Very classic fit. The only thing that makes this different from the original, apart from me actually just not following the pattern, is that it's a cardigan, so that's why the neckline is blue and not red, so that it matches with the blue button band that will go down. I've been debating what sort of fit I want. I thought I was going to go with sort of similar sleeves to what I did with the V-neck cardigan. That's like no decreases all the way, but I ended up decreasing, and I am happy that I did that. So I guess I'm going to go with a sort of more classic shape that isn't cropped or anything. I thought I was going to go with like a really long rib for the waist so that it looked sort of a little bit more elegant, but I might just do more stockinette and a short rib. But it's probably going to be shorter than your average cardigan, simply because I am a wearer of skirts. But yeah, I'm just enamored with this. This is giving me all the Marius joy and nostalgia, and I'm just... To those of you who are sick and tired of this, I hear you, I get you. But of course, me just being true to form, I am doing something after it's been trendy. That's kind of how I do things. It's how I stay timeless, I like to tell myself. I can recommend actually just improvising, knitting something that you just want. You know, following patterns is such a treat, because like you explore new things and you do things that you hadn't thought about, but sometimes just going and doing the things that you know, not writing down a single number, maybe just the bust circumference, but yeah, just wing it. It's fun. Now, I have nothing for acquisitions this week. My knitting shopping really did calm down a great deal in lockdown. There's something about not going to yarn shows that helps with that, and not going to yarn shops either. So I think for the remainder of this episode, I'm gonna get into the personal stuff, the non-knitting stuff. So for those of you who are here just for the knitting, that's all over. But I did talk a little bit about journaling last week. And I said I wasn't going to share a lot of what I do, but I'm going to share a little bit, because I think we all do these journaling things, whether you want to call it bullet journaling or whatever, differently. And what works for us and what works for me may not be what works for you, but also it might be. And when I'm going around and looking for bullet journal stuff online, like I'm seeing a lot of really amazing things, but I'm not really seeing the things that I do. And so I think, well, there's no harm adding a little bit to that. So how am I like kind of approaching this? Well, I talked a little bit about kind of finding a journal that fit my criteria yesterday. So that's less about getting the correct journal and more about what suits your needs. And I've sort of tried to do the same thing with my stationery. So I guess that's my acquisition, because I got a pencil case, and I first got it and I was like, it's huge, like head to pencil case comparison here. This could fit a tiny laptop. It's massive. So I thought, I'm not gonna keep this. It's huge. But I'm gonna open it and have a look. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I got it. So most of the time, if you like look up pencil cases, what you get is just like one big zip pocket where your pencils are gonna be inside. It's gonna be a mess. You have to turn it inside out to find the right pen time and time again. And I don't want that. So I wanted just something that you just zip open and the pages are facing, you see all your pens, and that is what I found. So that's what it looks like when you open it. It would have been ideal with something a lot smaller, but I generally couldn't find anything. And what is it that we have in here? I already have these colored pens from a friend of mine before she moved, so she left them with me. So really all my pen acquisitions are in the bottom. I don't think I'm gonna really go into too much detail. I got these micron pens. That seems to be kind of the go-to for most. I also like to use these Frixion pens, which I also have one attached to my journal because they are erasable pens and that is something I need. But I also have just general mechanical pencils and a whiteout for when I do use my microns and I can't erase all the mistakes I made. And I've used that one a lot because I make mistakes all the time. And I also got my rulers in here and a eraser. And do you need a lot of stuff? No. What I use the most, I use the micron pens, the ruler, the mechanical pencil, and the erasable pencil. That's really what I use the most. Sometimes I want to use colors and I'll use the colored pens there. That's it. But I attached this one here because that's what I use on a daily. I only use the permanent pen for like permanent stuff. So last time I showed you how I'm like kind of looking at the year in a whole. Like I have 2 pages of this that's showing my plans, birthdays, stuff like that. I don't think I needed this second spread because I don't think this journal will last me the whole year. I think I'll have to have 2 per year because these thick page journals have fewer pages, but that they really only last for half a year. In fact, I started off making 1 page per day and that will make it last to about mid-May. So I think I'm gonna have to combine some days on 1 page. I really haven't used that wish list page that I showed you earlier. Should I put the pencil case on there? I have my goals page that I've split into 4 categories of my life. I'm not gonna tell you what those are, but they're just personal and they were quite helpful to help me remember the big things so I don't find myself in 12 months just like, I didn't achieve any of the big things I wanted to achieve. Like, I'll actually remember them. I also have a when did I last page, where I've said like when I last changed my toothbrush and just like washed my towels and just like putting in the date. It's good. I don't know if I showed you this or whether I should. I don't know. I'll show you a bit. I'm also tracking my knitting projects. This is my design tracking only. So this is like how much I've knitted of them and I'm behind on so many of them. It's not even funny, but it's good to have it on here and have it in colors and make it look all interesting and make it like kind of gamify it a little bit. And I'm also planning on plotting my releases on this calendar. 1 color for garment, 1 color for accessory, that kind of thing. I also got like these spreads for like podcasts, shows, books and films that I am enjoying and that I'm going to check out. I'm just writing them down that I'm really enjoying and I'm just writing them in the colors that I associate with them, which I just think I just attribute colors to things. It's just the thing. And that's really nice to look at. Just like, yeah, I did like that show. Oh, I need to finish that book or check out that book, you know. So that's been good. And I think it's format works for the length of time it's going to be for. I'm not going to fill it up, but it's not going to be super empty either. So I'm just going to share kind of like what my daily is looking like. So what I'm covering is my to-do list and I'm using different dots to like symbolize what the different tasks are. But on the other side, on this side, I'm having a timeline where I put in the hours of the day and I actually put in the stuff as I've done them. So I got 1 list of things I want to do and 1 list that I'm actually sort of putting it in when I did them. And that is really helping me get a sense of time and how long things actually take to do. Because sometimes I'll put like, finish writing these 3 patterns, 9 o'clock, finish by noon. I was like, that is not how long that takes. It takes way longer than that. And it's giving me a sense of just how long it takes and also how long I sometimes just space out. Like between here, I canceled a subscription and I didn't do anything between that and starting to write something at 8 o'clock. So that's between 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock where my brain just went, I am not functioning. So it's good to like have that in hindsight as well, because I shouldn't be planning as though that doesn't happen to me. It does happen and I need to see how much space that takes and how much space that needs to take, because resting is part of me being productive. I'm not going to be productive if I don't allocate however 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours that was. And that's not every day, but it's good to get back to that page and just see like, oh. So I've been doing that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days now. I've been filling out these pages where 1 column for my tasks and 1 column for when I did it. And I haven't like got a fixed idea of what hours to put in. I put in 13 hours. So if I'm ready to work by 8, it will start at 8, but if I'm ready at 9, it will start at 9. So just giving myself 13 hours where it's still an 8-hour work day. It's just more spread out. It's probably more than 8. I don't know. You know, when you suddenly have 5 hours in there where brain's not braining, then it is 8 hours left. So it sort of works out. I didn't think about that. Now I feel better. But see, this is what it's doing. Now I feel better about it. I didn't actually waste the whole work day. I had 8 hours of work. Huh. So here's my kind of February spread. That's what they will look like, my monthly spread. So I just put in a lot of information on what's going to happen that month. And I'll also put things back as they have happened, or like kind of appointments as I know them closer to when. You can also see just like how I'm messing up. Like this is just hideous. Like, and I've also been tracking my sleep. It's not going too well, but it's also not the worst. I was on such a roll, like I was back on my 8 hours. It was a little bit skewed to where I like it, but then I just couldn't sleep for 2 nights. But yes, this is my new spread. This is what I'm going to try to do. So I'm putting the same columns of times. This is still going to be the 13 hours. I'm putting in the numbers on the days when it's happening. And my to-do list below. So I can write the to-do here and slot them in here as I do them. And I can fit in 3 days per page rather than 1. And hopefully my book will then at least last me until, I don't know, July. And I can also make spreads for other things than just my daily to-do list and did I do the thing list. That was a bit rushed through. I realized maybe not everyone's kind of thing, but I think that it is really helped to both log what to do, but also what I have done. I often used to think that was quite cheeky. Like, oh, you're writing it down in hindsight. That's not your to-do list. You just wrote things you just did. That's like making it look like you did stuff off your list, but you didn't. I'm like, no, actually that's really helpful. That is very, very helpful. And it may mean that I am avoiding the thing that's been standing on the same list every day and I'm just shifting it one day ahead every day. But at least now it's making me aware of how many days I've been putting it off. And eventually I do it. And I have. Even if it was Saturday night that I did all the things I was putting off, it happened. And it is feeling good that this is working, even maybe if it's just temporary because of the novelty. I don't know. But I'm enjoying it. And I think that's part of why I think we can credit this journal for why I'm recording again. Because I'm finding time and I'm getting a sense of time and when I will have time next and when I won't. And just like, oh, well, let's do it now because ... I know it from my book. So that's like the more practical how-tos of the journal, but more sort of high level. I'm hoping it will help me get back to kind of where I was at, I don't know, 4 years ago. I feel like that's when, or 5 years ago, I don't know when things went downhill, where I just had a routine worked in that made everything less effortful because it was just what I did. And then I could do other things on top of that because the other things were kind of smooth and effortless. So I think if I get that down, I'll be a little bit more present. I won't, you know, be late for everything that I do and just have a bit more time and space for, you know, people I care about and making priorities and finishing a lot of the whips that I have around here. I think I'm going to have to do another spread after my knitting pattern tracker where I track the works in progress I'm working on that are just for fun and not work. I mean, they're always kind of like, you know, feeding into the work side because I learn something every time I knit something, be it my patterns or others, or no pattern at all, like the Marius here. So it's going well. Not going to be super, you know, preachy about the journal or anything because like I said, what works for me may not work for you, and I really do find that because when I look at all these bullet journalers on YouTube, I see just so many things that would not work for me and it's working great for them. But there's no harm in sharing. So then you can like, oh, that one thing I'll take, but not that thing, I'm not doing that. You know, that's kind of how I operate this. Cherry pick. I encourage cherry picking your planner, be it a on-the-wall calendar like I have with my Moomin calendars, or a journal, or an app, what have you. I definitely need something that's in my face so I don't, you know, have this out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Other people need it, have it a bit more tidy and stored away in a phone app. But I'm just waffling now. That's all I had for today. It was so lovely to have a little comeback in the last episode and get through your comments, which I'm still getting through, but it's good to be back and good to hear from you again in the comments, like I said, if you want to say hello. I'm gonna wrap up this episode now, so thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye.